Lloyd Vance is in. Insider Football is back for another week on 1029 The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network. So glad that everybody could be with us. Yeah, I'm that bad at that. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football is back on 1029 The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network. So glad everybody can be with us. I'm here with my tag team partner, Kevin Midgette. Lloyd Vance here, longtime NFL writer. What a week it was around the National Football League. Week 11 in the books almost. We have a game tonight we'll talk about in a few minutes. Kevin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. Let's get it on. We found out finally, I think, who's pretenders and who's contenders this week.
Well, we hope so, Kevin. It's crazy time around the National Football League and lots to get to. We're going to talk a lot about, like, if the playoffs started today, the playoff picture. But before we start anything, the game's getting ready to kick off. You got your favorite squad. I say jokingly, the Dallas Cowboys 3-5-1, and they are at the Las Vegas Raiders 2-7. Dallas a 3.5-point favorite on the road, over under 49.5. I think this is a get right game for the Dallas Cowboys. I think as long as they can block Max Crosby, I think they'll be okay in this one. But I think they put up big numbers and win this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think especially Dallas coming off of the passing of one of their teammates last time they touched the field as well. I think they're playing with a heavy heart in this game. And it's a team they should beat. They should be able to outscore them by the point spread, that's for sure.
Yes, and they're going to have Quentin Williams in the lineup tonight, coming over from the Jets. I know that Dallas fans are excited about that, and you know it's an opportunity for him to make an impact on this team because we knew that the Dallas Cowboys, their biggest problem was their defense all season has not been stopping anybody. So yeah, we both think that Dallas will win it, and it'll be interesting to see if they get back into this race. But Kevin, you know, in terms of the race, I always start locally. The Philadelphia Eagles, if the playoffs started today, would be the number one seeds in the NFC. The Eagles stacking W's, man. You can say what you want, but now they've beaten Kansas City, the Rams, the Bucks, the Green Bay Packers last week, and then this week they beat the Detroit Lions. The game was 16-9, kind of I don't know, it's kind of boring to me, to be honest with you. Not a lot of action, but the Eagles seem to find that winning formula. I think it's 4 straight wins for them now. What can fans take away from this? And then we'll start talking about the particulars of the game.
Well, one, I want to point out the fact that I have officially become an old fart. I had an opportunity to go to the Eagles-Lions game Sunday night. And I was like, I had to work a little bit during the day. I could have made the game at night. But you know what? Old man brain kicks in. It's like, man, it's going to be cold. Man, I don't want to be up there. That wind was kicking yesterday in this area. And I did not go. And I'm okay with that, especially after the game I missed right there. Because you know what it is? It's like tailgating's fine. The first quarter's fine. Somewhere in the middle of the second quarter, it's like, I wish I was on my sofa right now. So I stand by my decision on that one. What I will take from the game is they're the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs, like we talked about before. They win games. They find ways to win games. Are they pretty? Absolutely not. But there's two sides of the coin. The defense has definitely picked it up. Jalen Phillips has been a huge part of that as well. The offense, on the other hand, That's the question mark now with this team.
Yes, I agree with you that the offense is definitely something to be desired for. Watched all the game, and there were a couple things that stood out to me, particularly the Eagles' offense, just still kind of sputtering, trying to find their way, whether it's Patullo, whether it's Jalen Hurts, Saquon's not seeing the offensive line. It's just something's amiss with this offense. I think a big thing is that offensive line is still very beat up. You saw Lane Johnson leave the game with the Liz Frank injury in his foot. He's going to probably be out 4 to 6 weeks. Big injury. You're not sure how that's going to affect them going into their playoff push. They did get Dickerson back. They did have Jurgens back in terms of the center position, so they had some continuity there. But Kevin, this offensive line has only played one game together with all their starters. It's just been a mash unit, and I think that's the biggest thing amiss with this offense from last year because the gaping holes are just not there for Saquon Barkley. 26 rushes for only 83 yards this week.
I think it would be a lot different if they could run the ball. If you could deal with the AJ stuff and all the drama there, like this past game where they tried to force feed him the ball to the detriment of the offense, in my opinion. But if they were running the ball, you could look the other way a little bit. They can't run the ball. Jalen's got to make the right decisions. He has to go to the guys that are open. He can't sit there and try to force feed AJ.
Yes, and when you look at in terms of AJ Brown, again, he was all during the week. He was on Instagram, and he's looking at in terms of get me the ball, use me is what he was saying. AJ Brown 7 receptions he had 11 targets though for 49 yards. Conversely, Devontae Smith he had 1 reception and 5 targets for 8 yards. So they seem to move away from Smitty, and then they got AJ Brown going. But is that enough to placate him? They won the game. He got his targets, but he's still not putting up these big numbers, and he's not competing with the JSNs of the world.
I think it's one of those things. I guarantee you AJ's still unhappy because he didn't get the yards. And is it the fact that these wide receivers are not getting open or Jalen refuses to take the shots downfield? Because we know how Jalen was, say, the beginning of last year after they lost the New Orleans game and he was turning the ball over. He was more reserved after that. He wasn't taking the gambling shots, and he kind of goes back into that turtle, won't force it in there.
Yes, and Jalen Hurts, everybody's talking about him in terms of is it what's going on with him, and is he the right guy, et cetera. You got to wonder what's going on in terms of Jalen Hurts because I think a lot of it has to do with the tool on his game calling. Hurts 14 to 28, 135, no touchdowns and no interceptions. So kind of an ugly performance by him. Where are they going to go from here?
And they're going to keep winning games because that's what they do. They're going to win games. You're going to win the division. There's no doubt about that. You need to get that bye week, though. That's going to be crucial for that team. That being said, I mean, I've never seen a quarterback in my life that's been to 2 Super Bowls already in a young career get just hammered on by the media and everyone else. Maybe he's not the right guy. They have leaks coming out from Philadelphia sports media people that he might not be the right guy. And I've never seen anything like that for somebody who's been to 2 Super Bowls already.
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of
And that's one of the things as the Philadelphia fan base, I think, is definitely doesn't help that. I mean, if anything, growing up in this area, being around the Philadelphia fan base, I've never seen a more spoiled fan base in this fans have been, say, in the past, like since 2017. It's like like we grew up. This team stunk. We didn't win anything. By the time we were happy to get to the playoffs with the old Eagles teams, now this younger generation since the 2017 Super Bowl. They've been to 3 Super Bowls, and they're just sitting there trying to hang Jalen Hurts out like that guy comes around every day. Maybe we should appreciate Jalen a little more and not just attack him all the time.
And there he is, Kevin Midgette, get off my lawn. So, he's a guy. You're just not sure what you're getting in terms of. Yeah, it has been sustained greatness for the Eagles, and you just wonder how the fans are going to react in terms of the Eagles and where do they go from here.
Yeah, most definitely. They have the luxury of being in the division that they're in this year. So you can get by with, they're piling up the W's, but they can get by with, resting some guys on the back end here, making sure everyone's healthy for that postseason run. But if they don't get that bye, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, the bye is going to be interesting because you just wonder where they. That right now they're number one seed and everything's looking good for them, but you wonder, if they get to the playoffs, if they're going to fade.
Yeah, I think that could definitely happen. That could definitely be a possibility. And you also get to the fact it's like the team's been there before. They've played a lot of football games. They've played more football games than basically almost anyone over the past couple years. So there might be some tired legs. I don't want to quote one of the worst Rocky movies, Rocky 3, but that eye of the tiger maybe isn't there, So the drive has a lot to say about it.
Hold on, yeah, three was excellent. I love Clubber Lang.
Stop. Thunder
The
Lips
first
in the
was fine,
wrestling
but
match.
come on.
Stop. Now, the one thing is Mr. T was great in that movie. The rest of the movie stunk. That's the movie where Rocky jumped the shark. He sold out, and he was super cut Rocky. He wasn't like punching meat Rocky at that point.
Yeah, he definitely, he had definitely changed his look by then, and Stallone definitely may have had a little enhancement. And then by Rocky 4, he was definitely you could tell it wasn't just the Russian taking some special juice. So, Kevin, in terms of the Eagles, they're at Dallas. They have Chicago at the Chargers, are kind of falling apart. We can talk about them in a minute. Then they have the at Washington, who's a mess. At Buffalo, who we'll talk about in a few, and then Washington again. So, do you see any of the other teams catching them at this point?
In their division, absolutely not. The one team you would have to watch out for, though, even though the Eagles beat them this year, would be the Rams. That's the one team because I know the Ram fan base will be they should have won that game. If it's not that game's not in the snow, maybe the Rams beat the Eagles, and the Rams should have beat them. They're up by double digits this year against them. And the fact of the matter is, the Eagles closed that game out and won. Detroit, Dan Campbell still never beaten the Eagles. He's 0-3 against them. So they win the games they have to win.
And then as we talk about this game, the big thing to me is Dan Campbell. Is he over aggressive? I mean, he's just ridiculous. Detroit was 0-5 on fourth down, so he just kept doing it over and over again.
His instincts are horrible. He's the kind of guy, he's like some 15-year-old kid played Madden in his basement. The decisions that he makes sometimes, it's like, what are you thinking? I understand it's a different generation, of coaches. Like I often find myself sometimes what like Bill Walsh, Don Shula, Landry, what they would say if they saw some of these calls these coaches are making these days. And Campbell's one of those guys. In one respect, it's like, all right, go with your gut instinct. But in the other side, it's just like your guts are dumb, man. Your guts have no brains whatsoever. So sometimes it's better to go script. So yeah, it's like if they can do that, Detroit is their own worst enemy, I believe, at this point.
I agree, and the Lions, it was just like you're like, what are you doing? Take those field goals. They kept saying, "Oh, it was the weather and everything was windy out there." Well, they showed late in the game. They came right in and drilled that field goal.
Yeah, once again, that's this day and age. I'll call a game out in particular. Unfortunately, I had to watch a little bit of the Miami Washington game in Madrid, Spain, right? And neither one of these coaches, they're just not going for field goals. McDaniel, I get it. You're on a hot seat. It's a long flight. Take a field goal, man. That game shouldn't even went to overtime. So it's just the coaching mindset. I think these days is just to do the risk play.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of time these coaches are just, they're overly. A lot of times like, just punt the football, live another day, and it's just like you wonder where it's going to change. And we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football 102.9 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm here with Kevin Midgette. We're talking about Week 11 around the National Football League. Kevin, in terms of the Eagles, we'll wrap a bow on this. They just did, and when you look at the numbers, Detroit outplayed them. They had more yards, 317. The Eagles did have more rushing yards, 148. The Eagles, though, dominated in terms of time of possession, 35-48. Down the stretch, you know, did you think that the Eagles had a chance to get back in this one?
Yeah, until I'm proven, different. It's like they're in ball games. They're a team though. I will say positive for them. They always think they're going to win a game at this point. They have that mindset. It's like, all right, this is more difficult than we thought. How we're going to win it this week, and it's just, you also have to put it in the context. These teams that are playing them, it's almost like a mindset with them. They get nervous when they have a small lead at the end of the game. It's like, oh, here come the Eagles. Here come the Eagles at this point. So it works
Yeah,
both ways.
yeah, and the thing is, in terms of Detroit, they just let them hang around, and the Eagles, they kind of let their defense wasn't the, they did okay. You know what I mean? They got one sack, but I do think Phillips is doing a nice job in terms of getting that pressure that they need, and they got one sack, and they did harass Golf, and the thing is, Golf, 14 of 37 for 255. He had one touchdown, one interception, sacked twice. He did not play particularly well. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, what was going on with him? He had two receptions on 12 targets for 42 yards.
You might have to give Mr. Jackson some credit on that for the coverage on Amon-Ra on that. As much as he's been, beat about in the media by fans, by everyone else. I mean, he played a good game against them, so that worked in their favor. And Golf is starting to get that reputation. He can't win big games.
Yeah, and you got to give credit too as well to Q Mitchell. He was incredible in this game. He I think he was targeted four times, and they didn't have any completions on him. This defense is getting, they're getting some teeth, Kevin. They're getting kind of playoff ready. So Mitchell was four targets, one pass breakup, zero catches, and Golf had a 39.6 rating to throwing it to his side. So you think the additions of Graham, Phillips, and Kobe Dean, who's been flying around, do you think they've really made a difference with this team? I'll give you this. In the last two games, both wins, they've had 22 possessions. They've only allowed two touchdowns the last two games, both wins, Green Bay and Detroit.
Almost definitely. Phillips has been a menace out there. Yeah, I mean, he's playing himself into a big contract after this year if he stays healthy. And speaking of health, as long as Nakobe Dean can stay healthy, I mean, that's a huge boost for that defense. And Brandon Graham, he's just giving you some snaps here and there, but just the fact that you can have some fresh legs in there with the veteran leadership that he brings, it's nothing but positives for that defense.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Fangio is just pulling everything together for the Eagles. And it's huge because their offense is, they're not bottom five, but they're kind of middle of the road, the offense, in terms of yardage and points, and they're winning games, kind of like you're saying. But you're like, okay, need to see some more out of this offense. So we're here talking about the Eagles on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 102.9, the Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm here with Kevin Midgette. Overall, good win for them, and I feel like Sirianni almost said it, but he didn't. But his mentality was like, all right, on to Dallas, on to the next one. And that's the way the National Football League is. You have to stack the W's and keep moving. As I said, 8-2. If the playoffs started, they would be the number one seeds. But yes, you got to look at some of the other teams that are in the mix in terms of the seeding. Particularly, Kevin brought up the Rams. The Rams, statement win for them. Close game now. Comes down to a field goal. They end up beating the Seattle Seahawks, probably one of the marquee matchups of this week, 21-19. Are the Rams for real? And was it more them or was it Sam Darnold and his four interceptions?
I think that Rams defense was a big problem. In my opinion, rather, I should say, I think it's going to be the Rams or the Eagles that go to the Super Bowl. It's one of those two teams. That's the cream of the crop right there in the NFC. So, I mean, Seattle, we talked about it last week. If that game's in Seattle, I'd probably like Seattle to win the game. The fact that it was in Los Angeles, I went with the Rams. And we'll see. It's like Darnold. Once again, we might not want to get too high on the USC quarterback. You sit there and you throw the 4 picks. I mean, that's kind of on you at that point. So, I mean, both defenses did well. So we'll see how they play out down the road.
Yeah, I agree with you that. Yeah, we'll see how the Rams do, but that was a statement win for him. When Myers was lining up that potential game winner, 60 yards, I didn't think he was going to make it. And the way Stafford's been playing, he did not have huge stats in this game, but he's getting the ball to Devontae Adams, particularly in the red zone. It's using Puka Nakua. Kyron Williams running very well. And in that defense you're talking about under Chris Shula, they're doing a nice job with Fisk and Burse and Young. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. And those 4 interceptions turn this game. But they kind of let Seattle hang around and then in the second half. And they get the job done, though. So they're 8-2. They're now the number 2 seed in the NFC. Their schedule looks like this. They have Tampa Bay. We'll talk about that game soon. At Carolina, at the Cardinals, who are totally falling apart. Detroit, at Seattle again, at Atlanta, who's a mess, and then Arizona again. So, yeah, I definitely could see them winning at least 13 games. And the Eagles are going to have to keep pace. And the Eagles probably should. But you know how the Eagles are. We've been following them our whole lives. They lose games they shouldn't. You know what I mean? There's always one of those games. Think about, they lost to Tommy DeVito, I think, a couple of years ago up in New York, a game they needed. And you're like, okay, same old Eagles. But maybe Sirianni, whose record with Hurts is just one of the highest in terms of coach quarterback out there, maybe they've learned their lesson. But do you think it's going to be the Rams or the Eagles?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't see, pardon me, another one of those teams really stepping up. I mean, Detroit, I think they are who they are. I believe they have the next 3 games at home, though, so that might be able to right the ship for them a little bit. And as far as like the NFC South, I mean, Tampa's a tough team. Tampa's a team you don't want to play in the playoffs because they're the ones who could pull that upset first round. They're pesky. We'll put it that way. But yeah, the cream of the crop are the Rams and the Eagles.
And another one I got to throw in there, Kevin. The Chicago Bears. They're 7-3. Your guy Caleb Williams, he's 5-1 in one-score games. I mean, what is going on with the Bears? Can people believe in them? I mean, good win for them, 19-17 over Minnesota. Road win for them. The Bears did have a late touchdown by Vikings called back, and then they were able to get the game-winning field goal. So, what do you was this more J.J. McCarthy not living up to what he needed to do, or the Bears for real? Should people start believing in him?
Put it this way, I'd keep one eye on the Bears just to see, if you're from that fan base, you're happy to see them with a winning record. Caleb Williams and all the weapons he has on offense taking a step forward. Now, is there any depth to their playoff run? Remains to be seen. I'm still skeptical. Let's see if them beat a better team other than J.J. McCarthy. Might impress me a little more.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting with them in terms of can they keep up this pace? You talk about all these close victories, and they've been finding ways, kicking field goals, win games. They do have a big game this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then they're at Philadelphia, which I think is going to be a statement game. And then they're at Green Bay. They have Cleveland, Green Bay, at San Francisco, Detroit. So the schedule is going to get a lot of trouble for the Chicago Bears, and we're going to see if them and Sweat are for real.
That's definitely, and like I said, it's a good story this year. They're the AFC's equivalent, the Colts and the Bears. Those are the 2 that jumped out this year that no one expected. So yeah, it's a good story, but let's see how it moves forward.
Yeah, and they have Johnson there. He's coming and Williams has kind of bought into his plan, and I think it's a situation where The Bears, yeah. Right now, you got to kind of say, okay, maybe they are legit. They're just stringing together wins here. Uh, when you look at it, though, not a lot of signature wins to me. They haven't beat a lot of winning teams. So you want to see them against Pittsburgh. You want to see them against Philadelphia, Green Bay. But right now, they're stacking W's. They're 7-3. They'd be the number 3 seed. And then at number 4, you have Tampa Bay. And this was another one of the marquee games this week. And I know Nate was tuned into it. He said he watched the whole thing. Josh Allen puts on the Superman cape as the Bills beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 44-32.
Yeah, it was a good game. I mean, the one thing you got to say too, Keon Coleman, he's becoming that guy now. A healthy scratch because he can't show up on time for work, and then they showed him dancing in the pregame, and he's not playing. It's like, what are you happy about? You know. And then that kid Shavers, he stepped up in the white. Josh Allen can get the ball to any of these guys on any given day. So the fact you have Shavers leading the team in receptions, yardage, and everything else, I mean, Josh Allen did what he should do. He's the reigning MVP for a reason, and he's that guy. He can throw 2 picks in the game and still take you to a W.
I agree. In terms of Josh Allen, he put on that Superman cape and it was just like, wow. He put forth one of those efforts. It's like, okay, he overcame his mistakes, started running the football when he needed to. Shavers, Gabe Davis reappearing, and as long as they have Cook as well, and the defense is trying to come around, they're going to be a dangerous team. Now, in terms of these two teams, Tampa Bay is number 4 in the NFC, and I think we should. Well, Carolina too inconsistent, but should we hand NFC South to the Bucks right now?
Not yet. Not yet. Close enough, but not yet. Carolina, and I will say I called this one. I picked Detroit to beat Philadelphia last week just because, once again, it worked for them to go to the Super Bowl last year, so I ran with it. I'm running with it again this year. But that being said, I called Carolina winning that game against Atlanta because they played horribly before that, and that was like, all right, they're Carolina. And it was like, now they're going to come win a game they shouldn't win. And Carolina hung in there. Bryce Young had an unbelievable game. And McMillan actually showed up and found the end zone as well. So is Carolina going to win division? Probably not, but too early to write them off.
Yeah, and the things with Carolina, they're in the mix, but good win for them, and we'll get to that game in a second. But I still think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this division, and Baker Mayfield played a solid game, but he wasn't getting much help. So I know other than Tucker. So Tampa Bay's got at the Rams, Arizona, New Orleans, Atlanta, at Carolina, at Miami, Carolina. So those last 3 weeks are really going to tell us about this team.
Yeah, and actually, it sounds like they got a pretty nice little run there because that first Carolina game might mean something, but that second one might not.
Yeah, and I think it. I think the Bucks are going to get healthier, and this will help Baker a lot, especially in the offensive line. And then they need to get Buck and Irving back. We'll see about the receivers. Godwin's been banged up all season. We'll have to see how he makes out. So, and then I really don't think Mike Evans is coming back. So I think they're going to be around, but they'll win that division, and they'll go from there. But the South definitely will be the number 4 seed in NFC. In terms of the other side, though, the Bills, I mean, that was a great victory for them. Is this going to spur them ahead? Because when you look at them, right now they're number 5 seed, and they would be on the road. They'd be a wild card team. They have at Houston, at the Steelers, the Bengals, at the Patriots, which I'm looking forward to that rematch, at Cleveland, Philadelphia, and then the Jets. So what are you thinking in terms of the Bills? Have they turned a corner? They are 7-3, but the Patriots are red hot, man.
Yeah, Buffalo, they should win that division with the games they have left. And it's all going to hinge on also beating New England as well. But New England, they haven't been there before in a long time. So you don't know if these younger guys, how they're going to react when it gets closer to late November, early December football. Buffalo Bills, on the other hand, they're used to it. They're used to getting their mindset and they're used to getting that playoff mode ready. So for that, I'd give the Bills the edge.
The Bills, it seems like McDermott's getting everything together, but obviously it's all about that offense. That offense has got to find a playmaker. You talked last week about how it was like the old Eagles with Hinkson and Thrash and all of that. They need somebody to step in. Maybe it will be Shavers or one of the tight ends, but good solid win for them. We'll see if they're able to keep it going. But right now, the way that the Patriots are playing, I think they may be able to hold them off. The New England Patriots are 9-2. Yes, they beat the Jets. I know it was 27-14 on Thursday night, but it was a dominant game by my guy, by the way, Travion Henderson. I played him 19 rushes, 62 yards, 2 TDs rushing, 5 catches, 31 yards, a touchdown receiving, 32.3 points in fantasy. I mean, is Travion Henderson going to carry the Patriots to division title? And what are we thinking in terms of the Patriots?
I will say I made a trade for Travion Henderson about probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago. It was a package deal, but I wanted Travion Henderson because I knew once this kid plays regularly, he's going to go off. 5 touchdowns now in the last 2 weeks. Although I was nervous, I had 3 Patriots going. I had Drake May, I had Henderson, and I had Stephon Diggs going. So that worked out well for me. But I can't see him not being the number one back now after what he did if Stevenson does come back. So I mean you can't keep that kid on the bench anymore. So with him going and Drake May, I mean, you got to just imagine the energy, the youthfulness of that team going in uncharted territory, making the run they're making with a first year coach in New England. It's got to be a great vibe up there.
Yes, it seems to be coming together for them. And the Patriots are in line to win their first division title since 2019. They seem to be ascending at the right time. Drake May, everybody's saying, oh, MVP. I don't know if he's playing at MVP level. Everything kind of falling together for him in terms of the offense. And Daniel seems to have the right playbook for him. 25-34, 281, had a touchdown. He was sacked one time, but he was able to get the ball to Diggs. You even seeing Mac Hollins getting ball. Mac Hollins getting his targets out for them. Hunter Henry, the tight end. So they're getting everybody involved offensively. And then in terms of the defense, Robert Spillane and that group, they're doing a nice job. They had 2 sacks in this game, and the Jets didn't have a chance. How bad are the Jets? We just heard tonight that Justin Fields is finally being benched for Tyrod Taylor, and they're a bad team. I mean, they're planning for next year. They got to be, Kevin, right?
They've been playing for next year since Ken O'Brien was quarterback. I mean, they've been playing for next year for a long time. So yeah, they stink. They're not good. The 2 pieces that they had on defense, they traded away as well. The fact that they hung with New England as well as they did, I give actually, that's a testament to the players actually still showing up. But yeah, they're a bad team.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of them, and that's what the Patriots did. They took care of business against a bad team, and that's what you're supposed to do. I think they're hitting their stride at the right time, and it's going to be tough for the Bills, as I said earlier, to catch them because New England, if the playoffs start today, they would be the number 2 seed. 8 straight wins for them. And the schedule's nice, Kevin. You can't look past that. And that's why a lot of people are saying, okay, are they the Dolphins from a couple years ago where they had a nice record and then they went to the playoffs and just got dominated? But the Bills, the Patriots, you can only play who they put in front of you. So they're at Cincinnati, and we know no Joe Burrow in that game. So they'll face Joe Flacco. They have the Giants. We'll see if Dart's going to be back. And then they finally get their bye. They got one of the late byes. Then they have Buffalo, a game I'm really looking forward to. At Baltimore, a game looking forward to. But then they finish with at the Jets. and in Miami, who's kind of getting scrappy again. But where do you see the Patriots? Do you think they're going to be a 12-win team?
Yeah, I think they'll win 12 games. I just can't imagine though. You're playing in the wild card round, and you get the Buffalo Bills in your first wild card game. It's like, what happened here, man? So yeah, I I think if New England wins that division, that's an impressive possible Coach of the Year thing for Vrabel.
Yeah, and he's done a nice job with this young group, and he's given them direction. They only won the last 2 years, won 8 games, and the Gerard Mayo disaster for one season. They won 9 games already, so they're playing with house money, and I picked them to kind of be a wild card, but I did not think they'd win the division the way they have. Buffalo has won it 5 straight years, and they seem to be kind of ascending at the right time. So yeah, the Patriots, they look like they're for real. So we were talking about the current playoff picture here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football 1029, the Game Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm here with Kevin Midgette. So glad everybody can join me. Uh, at the number one spot, and this was another marquee game this week. We had a lot of them. Number one spot in the AFC, you got to tip your cap to the Denver Broncos. I mean, the Broncos, they look legit, Kevin. I mean, that was, and I've said all along, oh, no. Andy Reid and the Chiefs, they'll get it together. They'll find a way. Well, guess what? Right now, if the playoffs started, they'd be sitting at home. And you're starting to wonder at 5-5, are they going to get into the big dance? Denver beats them 22-19 on a game-winning field goal. Bo Nix led a late 10-play drive to set up Will Lutz's 35-yard field goal. No block kick this time. What's going on with these two teams? Where do you see Denver? Are they legit number one? And is it over for the Chiefs?
I think it's pretty close to being over for the Chiefs. We're seeing an old team right now, and they look like an old team. They look like a predictable team, and that's why their record is what it is. I mean, you're 500 for a reason. This is the effort that you're bringing week in, week out. Denver, on the other hand, they're playing without Surtain as well, also right now, and that defense is just keeping people in check. Peyton, like I said a couple of shows ago, I thought it was a horrible idea when he took that Denver job. I was wrong. I was like, why would he take that job? There was no quarterback, nothing there. He's built that into a winning team.
He has. He sends Russell Wilson back, and now he has his guy in Bo Nix. And Bo Nix, look, sometimes he's not flashy or whatever, but he finds a way. And then they have a plethora of receivers. They have Sutton, they have Franklin, they have a bunch of good young players. Now they have Harvey kind of stepping up in the backfield. Are they going to be able to, Harvey, is he going to be able to step in there? J.K. Dobbins has a foot injury. He's out for the year. You might see McLaughlin stepping back into the picture. He's a guy, hey, fantasy football alert, grab him on the waivers before I do, everybody.
Yeah, he's a guy who's been there before. He can carry the load for a little bit because Harvey can't do it for a full game. He's not pulling the rock like Taylor isn't with Indianapolis. You need a two-back system there, and Sean Payton loves running backs anyway. So yeah, McLaughlin, that'd be a nice little fantasy pickup there. Little pearls there from Lloyd Vance.
Yes, I definitely think this week a lot of people are going to be active on the waiver wire looking at him. And then in looking in terms of the Chiefs, I do agree with you that it may be panic mode for them. You look at their roster, they can't run the football effectively. They had Kareem Hunt out there. He wasn't doing anything. And then really Kelsey was their main weapon because Rashee Rice was kind of inconsistent. He had some drops in this game. And then there's not much else other than Kelsey and Rashee Rice on that offense. Patrick Mahomes, 29-45, 276. He had a TD. He had an interception. He just looks very tentative in the pocket. I think a big thing, Kevin, on that offensive line, Jawan Taylor, they got to bench him. I mean, too many penalties, getting beat early and often on that right tackle position. And I think that Patrick Mahomes, he's seeing ghosts because that guy's not blocking anybody.
Yeah, it's definitely a different Patrick Mahomes than we're used to seeing right now. I mean, Patrick Mahomes still has many years left in this league. Health, stands up and everything. They need to get him some help. I'm okay with Kansas City not making the playoffs. It'd be refreshing. But at the same time, if you're a Kansas City fan or even a Patrick Mahomes fan, he needs help in there, and they've not supplied him with the help that he needs.
I agree, and it's like I keep wanting to say, okay, they're the Chiefs. They're going to flick the switch, and they're going to be okay, but it's not looking good for them. And it's getting late early, man. And you look at their schedule. They have Indianapolis in a prove it game this week, at Dallas on Thanksgiving. Then you have Houston, the Chargers, two teams they kind of need to beat, definitely, to jump up. And then they're at Tennessee, Denver again, which could be a big game, and then at Vegas. So I'm not ready to bury them, but they got to make some changes there and quick. And the big thing was they came off a bye, and it was always like Andy Reid off a bye. Andy Reid off. Well, guess what? They only put up 19 points, and they look frazzled in the game.
Yeah, it's a changing of the guard with that franchise right now. And like you said, that last game with Denver, that's going to be huge. Probably that's probably one for the division, or if it's not for the division, it's the one if Kansas City doesn't win, they're out of the playoff picture altogether.
Yeah, and I think when you really look at the Chiefs, it, they're looking at the Chargers above them now, and we'll talk about the Chargers in a minute. The Chargers are 7-4, and they're another team. You're just like, all right, they lost badly to Jacksonville. They're on their bye, but they don't look right. I think they can catch them. And then Jacksonville, they're a sneaky team. So the Chiefs got to find a way to catch those two teams. So we're here talking about the Chiefs on Lloyd Vance Insider Football here on 102.9 The Game Coast Sports Digital Network. So Kevin and I both kind of agree that the Chiefs, yes, don't bury them yet, but it's getting close. And this is a big game coming up with the Colts. We'll preview that in a minute. Speaking of teams making a move, and I hate to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to do it. The Baltimore Ravens. I said the Ravens, they were sitting there at 1-5. I said to everybody, don't count them out just yet. They are now 5-5. They beat the Cleveland Browns. I know, no big deal. They beat Cleveland 23-16, but it was a situation where I don't think Lamar Jackson was doing much, but then Derrick Henry woke up, and that defense was really starting to show some teeth.
I will say this. That was a trash game right there. Baltimore did not look good. They needed a trick play to Mark Andrews, basically, and they need Shedeur Sanders to come into the game to win it. That's a game they should have lost. So, but once again, they got the win. And traditionally, a lot of the games Baltimore plays against Cleveland are ugly to begin with. So they survived it. They move on. But with the schedule that they have, we spoke about it before, they should win that division, especially with Aaron Rodgers, however he's looking these days.
Yes, and so Baltimore, when you look at where they are right now, they're on the outside looking in. They're tied with Kansas City, but they're really just looking at that division situation and trying to catch the Steelers. They have the Jets this week, who have Tyrod Taylor, so they probably should win that one. Then they have Cincinnati. We'll see if Flacco plays against his old team. Then the Steelers at Cincinnati, New England, at Green Bay, and then at Pittsburgh. So they definitely have a chance to catch the Steelers. And yeah, when I look at the Ravens, that was a huge play. That was a smart play. They set up for the tush push, and then Andrews rolls out, takes it to the house, kind of on a speed option look, and he had some wheels there, man, and they needed it because Lamar Jackson was looking terrible in this game, very tentative in the pocket. And they're another team. You wonder who's going to make a play for him because Zay Flowers was dropping passes. He wasn't doing much in this game.
That's always been the problem Lamar Jackson's had. He's had a tight end all these years with Mark Andrews. They've had running backs. Wide receiver, he's always been dealing with very minimum skill set guys. I mean, trying to get the Nelson Aguilars of the day when he had them. Bateman was a number one pick, and it's now Zay Flowers, and it's like they don't have that guy. And they haven't really ever had that guy for Lamar Jackson. So, yeah, you're right. It's a struggle for them to get that offense moving sometimes.
Yes, and it was a good victory for them, and like everybody else, they're on to the next game. So I'm sure they'll get ready for the Jets. But the defense is really starting to press me. The way that Orr is deploying Hamilton out there, he's all over the place for the Ravens, and the Ravens, I do think they're going to catch the Steelers, and the Steelers are 6-4. Uh, another week, another. Well, oh, before we talk about the Steelers, I hope everybody's happy now. All right. Shador Sanders got to play in the game. Okay. There's no conspiracy. It's funny because Nate and all the young guys are saying, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. They're not playing him and all this stuff. Hey, he got to play. All right. Dylan Gabriel got concussed early in this game. So Shador Sanders comes in 4 for 16 for 25% passing, 47 yards, no TDs, had a bad interception, had a fumble. He was sacked twice. He had a bad intentional grounding and a big 13.5 QBR. I mean, so enough with Shador Sanders, or what do you think there?
No, he shouldn't be playing right now. I mean, he should be sitting back learning. But the fact is, the Cleveland Browns, remember when they had like 5 or 6 quarterbacks? And now it's like Flacco's gone, Pickett's gone, Gabriel's hurt. So Shador Sanders, now it's your turn to go. And I mean, he's going to get thrown to the fire if Gabriel can't come back and play. And uh, he's got a big learning curve. He's going to take some definite a lot of bumps right now. But I'll tell you who should be watching him right now is Arch Manning at Texas. This is going to be you next year if you decide to come out. Go stay in school one more year.
Yeah, and I think Arch Manning, he's just not looked good in terms of that. I think they played Georgia this week. He did not
Hmm.
look good in that game, and yeah, it's going to be Klubnik or Nussmeyer, one of these guys that come out, and they'll probably say, okay, you know, let him be the number one pick. And I think next year's draft class is the one that everyone's looking at because you have the Jets. They have all those picks. I think they're getting ready for that 2027 draft where the quarterbacks are going to be a lot better. So yeah, so Sanders got his chance, and I don't think Stefanski likes him. They said, "Oh, is he going to start next week? What's going to happen there, Coach? Is he going to be able to start against the Raiders, which is a winnable game for Cleveland?" Uh, and he was like, "We'll see." So, non-committal. It was Shador, yeah, he's got a lot to do, and I love when Hamilton and the guys they were mocking him doing patting his celebration when they sacked him and stuff. He needs some humble pie, but he's going to get his chance, and everybody can stop complaining and saying, "Oh, they're keeping him off the field on purpose." I don't think so. So they're just a bad team. And they probably need to tear everything down. I think the coach is probably going to be fired at the end of the season. So Cleveland, fans, all right, you were happy for a minute. There's a big ovation when he went into the game, but after that, enough's enough. So we'll see with them. It's Shore Sanders. But getting back to the other top team in the AFC North, the Steelers, they 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 won 34-12 over the Cincinnati Bengals. The two defensive touchdowns propelled them to the win in a blowout. But the big thing was Aaron Rodgers hurt his hand or his wrist. I'm not sure what it was, and he may miss some time. Can Mason Rudolph carry them, and can they hold off the Ravens?
Well, I will start by saying Aaron Rodgers. I think you pretty much know my pardon me, my feelings about Aaron Rodgers. I think he's soft. I've always thought he's soft. And I saw a picture today of Terry Bradshaw with a hairline fracture in his hand, on his off hand, like Aaron Rodgers has, playing in a cast. I do not see Aaron Rodgers doing that. And that's a thing right there. Aaron Rodgers won't be out there for it. Mason Rudolph probably will. And that's what's going to end up costing Pittsburgh the division right there. Because Aaron Rodgers is all about Aaron Rodgers. So I don't see him taking the lumps to help this team get across the line.
And yeah, and Kevin, that they're going to probably finish 9-8, and then Tomlin can say, you know what, not a losing season, but yeah, Rodgers is going to be 42 next month, and he's already said this is the last dance. I don't see him signing another contract.
Hope not.
So yeah, I think the Steelers will move on, and they'll probably be in the mix in that 2027 class to kind of get a new quarterback. But they really have no future in terms of getting these old retread quarterbacks, and They haven't had a quarterback since Roethlisberger, and you talk about a team that just can't find somebody in the future. They haven't won a playoff game since 2015-16 season.
Yeah, well, they took a bath drafting Kenny Two Gloves there. That was their big draft pick. That was going to be the new young quarterback, and he was here and gone in no time.
Yeah, Kenny Two Gloves, and they traded. They had Cleveland had him, and they traded him, and he's one of those guys. He looks good in practice, but you put him in a game, he kind of falls apart. So yeah, the Steelers, they have Warren kind of banged up with an injury. We'll see how they go. If the playoffs started today, the Steelers actually would be the fourth seed, uh, and their record. Their record they at Chicago, which is going to prove a game. Buffalo at the Ravens, Miami at Detroit, at Cleveland, and in Baltimore again. So I think with that schedule there and with this Rodgers injury, you're going to see that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can catch them. So good win for them, but they're kind of be holding on by a thread. Speaking of holding on by a thread and maybe they're on a comeback. The Miami Dolphins have won two straight games, man. And this game was over in Madrid, Spain. Did you wake up early? It was a 16-13 barn burner in overtime win for the Dolphins.
Unfortunately, yeah, I was at work. I got to watch most of it. And I don't get some of the play calls. They were just running the ball, and Washington knew they were running the ball. They had first and goal inside the 5, ran it 4 times in a row, even went for it on fourth down instead of kicking the field goal. It's like, do you have a play action play in there? Do you have any kind of creativity? And then they had a chance to win the game take the lead, I should say, with under 2 minutes ago, something like that, and they still didn't kick the field goal. They went for the touchdown and let it go to overtime. It was just a bad game. So it was two bad teams, and the better of the bad teams won.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones. If you have a guy in fantasy or you had some, God forbid, you have some cake on the game. I don't know. You're going to watch it. But I watched the majority of it, and then went to overtime. Jack Jones had that big interception of Marcus Mariota, who's he's done. He's another of these guys that's cooked, and A Chain, he's the engine for the Miami Dolphins. And we had Nate on last week, and he was all excited about A Chain, and A Chain 21 rushes for 120. He had overtime. He had 3 carries for 22 yards. He was carrying victory. And then you had Riley Patterson come and kick the game winner for him. It's time to put the Washington Commanders out of the misery. They're another team that's just they're not going anywhere. Uh, Dolphins did have Jordan Brooks. He had 20 tackles in this game, so he was everywhere. Good win for them. And then when you look at their schedule, I know they're 4-7. Maybe they can get not into the wild card conversation, but definitely be a spoiler, win some games. Their next 4 opponents are the Saints, at the Jets, at the Steelers, Cincinnati, and these teams have a combined 13 and 27 record. Are they going to be able to stay Mike McDaniel's job?
Well, we're going to find out if they really like their coach or not. Because if they go out and win some ball games right here, there's an opportunity for him to stay. If they're done with him, they can just roll over and have him out the door. So we're going to see how much control McDaniel has of the locker room right now.
Yeah, and in terms of Washington, a big thing in this game was I you talked about their lack of kicking, but when they did not have confidence in Matt Gay. He missed 2 field goals in this game, and that would have turned it for Washington. It's just a bad season going worse for them. They did cut Gay today. They said, you know what, enough with you. I was surprised they let him come back on a flight. Maybe they didn't. That's a long flight coming home from Madrid, and good win for Miami. As you said, yes, their record may get a little better, but I think they're going to be more in spoiler role at this point. But uh, hey, maybe some people have some of their folks in fantasy, whether it's Waddle, whether it's Tua, or a chain, and that'll keep people uh, inclined to keep talking about them. So good win for them over Madrid. That just showed, man, the NFL international series. They want that money all over the world. They have a game there. They had one in Germany, a bunch over in London, England. Do you? And I asked you this before, but do you think they'll ever have a team based over in Europe?
No, no, it's just It makes no sense, just traveling and everything else. I mean, it basically gives you 8 home games that are even more of an advantage than they already are because you got the other team with a flight coming over. Say you get 2 or 3 home games scheduled in a row, so you got, 2 3 different teams like each week they're flying over. It's such a huge advantage. I don't think you could do it.
Yeah, and logistics and the whole bye weeks and all that. It's just like, all right, what would they be able to do? So I think I agree with you that yeah, they probably won't be a team based over there. And I know Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, probably would do it, but they probably they're probably like, all right, what they have with the 6 7 international games is enough and gives everybody a flavor. And I think, as we were talking about Nate last week, it is good to have that early game on Sunday because it just bleeds right into the afternoon games as it's finishing, and it's just an all-day affair of football. So we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network, wrapping a bow on week 11, remixing it before we move on to week 12. Got to talk about this game, Kevin. The Green Bay Packers are now 6-3-1. What a struggle it was, though, to beat the Giants 2-9, 27-20. Jameis Crab Legs was converting fourth downs over and over again. You'll love this. I'm helping one of my friends with his survivor pick, and I said, take the Packers. He's calling me, texting me, and I'm getting frustrated as hell watching these Packers. What's wrong with the Packers? What's going on with them? And are they a team that's going to be one and done in the playoffs?
The Green Bay Packers are the NFC equivalent of the Los Angeles Chargers. They are mirror images of each other. They're teams that you think are good, but in all reality, they're not. They fall into my fraud category right there. Those two teams in particular. The one thing I will say is I might have had a parlay together, and I might have needed one more thing to hit. And I'm like, Jameis Winston's got to throw one pick in a game, right? And he was so efficient. He finally threw a pick basically in the
It was
last.
late.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was like fourth quarter. He finally got it for me. I'm like, there it is.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jameis.
Yeah, it was a situation where it was like Evan Williams sealed the win with the end zone interception of Jameis Winston. He was moving that football, and the Packers need to snap a 2 game skid. Their record is better than the team. They're 6-3-1. If the playoffs started today, they would be the number 6 seed. Looking at their schedule coming up, they have Minnesota, and that who knows what you're going to get because Jordan Love is inconsistent, and so is JJ McCarthy. But then they're at Detroit for a huge game. Chicago, huge game in that division. At Denver, at Chicago again. Ravens at Minnesota. So their schedule is going to get tough, and they got to step up here. And Jordan Love in particular. Now, Christian Watson started having a game for them. I know Nate picked him up in fantasy, but did you have the backup running back for the Green Bay Packers on your bingo card?
Yeah, was it Wilson? Was his name? Yeah, it's like, and apparently he might get like more reps now going forward with Jacobs' health and everything else. No, not at all. The thing is, I always have like one roster spot to play with, so I'll pick up somebody's backup running back in case they get hurt. Like I picked up Corm for the Rams a couple weeks ago in case Williams got hurt. I picked up the kid from the Bears whose last name I can't even pronounce, but I dropped him and then he ended up going off. So yeah, Wilson, he wasn't even on my bingo card to look at. No.
Yeah, and Wilson 12 touches, 49 scrimmage yards. He did have a rushing touchdown this game, and I think he kind of saved their bacon because he came in there, and Jacobs was kind of up and down, and then he goes out with the knee injury, but he came and made some nice plays for them, and they found a way to win this one. It was crazy because at the end, Micah Parsons, who's kind of he's either doing hit or miss, and he got a big sack at the end and got some pressure on Jameis Winston to help with that interception. But it's going to be interesting to see if Green Bay can wake up and get into the mix, or are they going to be that team that's kind of middle of the road? So we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. Thanks for being with us, everybody. The Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Chargers 35-6. You talked about the Chargers. If the playoffs started today, The Chargers would be the 6th seeds. And can we believe in them? I mean, or what's going on with the Chargers?
Much like Green Bay, there's no consistency. I mean, Herbert looked terrible in this game. They lost another running back, which they've been doing all year long. So Vidal went out. So they're at a stretch right now of what to do offensively. And you'll see some of the receivers. Quentin Johnson, he's either a factor or non-factor. McConkey's in one day, one another game he's not doing anything. So I mean, they're having big problems there, just getting the play that they need on offense.
Yeah, they're extremely inconsistent, and everybody's pointing to, and it's true. You know, the tackle situation with Alt and Slater being out for the season, that's big for them. There was constant pressure on her, but enough excuses for this guy. He is, he's a poster boy for the NFL, with the hair and everything, and everybody talks about he's got the look, but he's got to live up to the billing, and he really hasn't. So it's going to be interesting for the Chargers. They're on a bye. They have the Raiders, Philadelphia, at Kansas City, at Dallas, Houston, and then at Denver. So there's some prove it games there. I still think that the Chiefs could catch them for that last spot. But Harbaugh, you could see he's starting to get really frustrated with this team, and he doesn't have a lot of patience. So, handicap, do you think? I'll name the 4 teams. So you have the Chargers, Jacksonville, Kansas City, and Houston. 4 teams for 2 spots in the playoffs. Who's going to get it?
As of right now, I would say Jacksonville gets one of them, and I'll say the Chargers. Kansas City, I think their time's come and gone. I just don't think that Mahomes has enough there. In Houston, they're playing well on defense, but I don't think their offense can score enough points for them to win. So, yeah, I would go the Chargers in Jacksonville.
All right, I'm going to go. I'll go Chargers and the Chiefs. I really think 3 teams are going to make the playoffs out of the AFC West, and I just can't bet it against Mahomes and Andy Reid at this point. They've just won so many games. Maybe I'm falling for the fool's gold. Just like in the Super Bowl last year, I said, "There's no way they're losing that game. They're inevitable." Well, guess what? Kryptonite is out there, and I think a lot of it has to do with time. I just think they're getting old, and the scheme. A lot of people are hip to it, and they got to find new ways. Particularly, they're going to have to find a young running back to help Mahomes out and open things up. So interesting race there in the AFC and the NFC at this time of year. So we're going to see who the pretenders are and the contenders are as we move towards Thanksgiving. We're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 Coast Sports Digital Network. All right, Kevin, everybody is talking, always talks about this game ball winner and lackey. I'll go game ball winner first. I'm giving mine to Josh Allen. I mean, he's put on the Super Bowl cape, 6 touchdowns in the 44-32 win over the Bucks. Threw for 317. It was a laugher at the end. That's how well he took over in this game. He did have 2 interceptions where you're like, "What are you doing?" But the Bills stay the course, and he's starting to spread the ball around to a lot of targets. So he gets my game ball.
Josh Allen, yes, definitely. I expect that out of the reigning MVP. Maybe not to that level, but that he went off on. But he did what he should do to carry that team. Honorable mention goes to Travion Henderson, just for my fantasy purposes. And Tucker from Tampa Bay also went off as well with 3 touchdowns. But my game ball would have to go to Bryce Young. He sat there, won a game maybe he
Wow.
shouldn't have won, threw over 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And for that franchise, if you can get him to be that number 1 quarterback, that's going to take them a long way.
Yeah, that's a good call out. And they beat the Atlanta Falcons, who kind of, we talked about earlier with Michael Penix having that knee injury. He's out for the season. And now they're going to go turn to Kirk Cousins. Their season seems to be over, but Carolina is still going. They're 6-5, big win for them. And yes, that's a great call out in terms of Bryce Young, what he did. Ted McMillan receiving for them, 8 receptions on 12 targets, 132 touchdowns. He can't be stopped. This guy, he may be the rookie of the year on offensive side of the football because obviously it's not going to be a quarterback this year. And then I got to give him another game ball shout out to Michael Wilson. I picked him up, put him on my bench though. 15 receptions, 18 targets, 185. Yes, Jacoby Brissett sets an NFL record with 47 completions on 57 passes for Arizona. They were never really in the game. The Niners really took it to them, but definitely have to shout out Michael Wilson. Did you pick him up and put him in one of your 11 lineups?
Hell no, I didn't. I didn't touch him at all. But I thank God I didn't play against him this week because I know some guy who did have to play against him. I was like, all the guy. You look at the other team's roster, it's like, all right, I got to worry about this guy, that guy, Michael Wilson. I wouldn't have batted an eyelash at for him to hang those numbers.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of good performances, and we're starting to see that around the National Football League, and uh, George Kittle as well. We'll talk about him and Purdy. They did a nice job for the Niners. I think the Niners are back. In terms of Lackey, I'm going with the quarterback. There were so many. There were so many. I almost gave it to Dan Campbell for Mr. 0-5 on fourth downs. What are you doing? But anyway, I gave it to Sam Darnold. He was just they lost because of him. My one, I was on Rich's show earlier, and he's like, "Well, come on." He came back. They had a chance. They tried for the field goal. No, he had 4 interceptions in the loss to the Rams. Uh, they were only 7-16 on third downs. So I give it to Sam Darnold from the Seattle Seahawks.
I think for the first time this season, we are on the same page.
Wow.
Get the drum ready for the USC quarterback, Sam Darnold. Everyone's sitting there running the flag up the pole that Sam Darnold should be getting MVP votes and everything else. And what did he do in the biggest game that he's played all year? Threw up a goose egg. 4 picks you cannot have in that game against the Rams. That was horrible. He cost them that game. Now, will he turn it around or will he revert? We'll see it coming forward, but it has to be Sam Darnold this past week.
Yeah, and some other low lights I'll call out. Jonathan Gannon for the Cardinals, the head coach. It's just a matter of time for him. He's just not getting it done. His team had 17 penalties.
Yeah, that's poor coaching. That's poor coaching right there. And the fact they couldn't get it straightened out, it reflects nothing but on him. And that team, take away a couple of players. I mean, that team's kind of a mess if you look at it. I mean, Brissett's getting more out of him than Kyler Murray ever could because, as we know, Kyler Murray's a bum. But that being said, I had to get that one in. Sorry. But yeah, this all reflects on Gannon and his leadership.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, he's going to be somewhere new next year. We talked about that with Nate at the end of the show last week, and it's just the team's in total disarray. They need to tear that thing down. They got Osten Forth, the new GM, coming in there, and Gannon's just not getting it done. And I think the Bidwell family's seen enough in terms of the roster and everything. It just seems like they've never what they had that magical season in '08 with Larry Fitzgerald and Kurt Warner. But other than that, it's just been a mess ever since they moved to Arizona. I still remember the old St. Louis Cardinals with Stump Mitchell.
Oh, Roy Green and Neil Lomax. Oh, yeah. Played on that horrible turf that the Cardinals baseball team played on.
Yeah, and it's funny because the Eagles used to always go to Bush Stadium, and they'd have trouble. It'd always be a dogfight with the old Cardinals. But this version of Cardinals, it's not good for them. So yeah, definitely had to call out Jonathan Gannon and his team's 17 penalties. Just undisciplined. And unfortunately, I got to throw it to him. Sorry, Shador. You get a dishonorable mention as well. We talked about his stats: 4 for 16. The Ravens were probably like, oh yes, 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 yes. So, he definitely got his come ups, and we'll see if he gets a start. But those are your lackeys and your game ball winners for this week. In terms of the gambling stats, I know a lot of people like to hear is the home teams were 8-6 this week. There were 5 covers, 5 losers against ATS. There were 4 outright winners. Jacksonville, so these are all underdogs that won. Jacksonville, surprisingly, is an underdog against the Chargers. They won. Carolina, we talked about them over Atlanta. Chicago, they were underdog. They got it done 19-17. Denver over Kansas. I couldn't believe Kansas City was favored in that game. Kansas City, Denver beats them 22-19. So any of these games stick out that you're like, wow, how are they a favorite?
Well, I think that Kansas City one just goes for the fact everyone's used to Kansas City being the Kansas City of old. So they're going to they're going to get the favorite sometimes when they shouldn't. The one thing I will say that I hopped on late, I jumped on Denver would win that game. Once again, these are live bets. Sometimes you want to see how the team looks when they hit the field. And sure enough, I jumped on Carolina in the fourth quarter to win that game. So those are the two nice hits I had. The one bad one I had a parlay with the Packers winning by 7, and they got the touchdown and went for 2 to get a 7-point lead. So I'm like, all right, I'm cooking here. Pittsburgh wins. All right, I'm cooking. I need one more. I teased the Chargers Jacksonville line down to 41.5. What did they score? 41. I had the over.
Oh,
Thanks for nothing.
yeah.
Thanks a lot, Chargers.
Yeah, there was only 5 overs that hit. There were 9 under, so scoring was down. And I know particularly like everybody was looking at that Eagles Lions game as like, oh, it's gonna be high scoring. Well, with the weather and the wind, it's 16-9 stinker. I think the Eagles were happy to just get out of there with a victory, and we'll see how that turns out. But let's move on to Week 12 here on Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 102.9 Game Coast Sports Digital Network as we close thing out. Week 12 will start on Thursday. The Bills now 7-3, look like they're moving in the right direction. The Houston Texans on a 2-game win streak. They're 4-5. The game is in Houston. I think Josh Allen is ready to really ascend, and I think the Bills will win this one. But it's going to be tough against that Houston defense with Hunter and the rest of that crew down there. So, what do you think in terms of this one?
I think the Bills win, but I want to see what the line is because I'd probably lean towards the under on it, especially like a team that should win the game going on the road. That would lean more towards an under.
Yeah, and it's just a dangerous spot because we've seen the Bills lay an egg against Miami and the Falcons on the road, so against a lesser team. So I think they win, but you got to be wary of the Texans in this one. I'll just jump around here. The Steelers, they're at the Chicago Bears, and this is a prove-it game for Caleb Williams. Can he get it done against the Steelers' attacking defense? I think that the Bears have tried to fix that offensive line. They've been doing a pretty good job in these close wins. Been back and forth on this one. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears in this because I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to play, and Mason Rudolph, he's average at best. So I think the Bears beat the Steelers.
I agree with you that the Bears win this game. I think the Bears beat them even if Aaron Rodgers were to play. I think the Bears are they're finding that gear right now, and I think they've got more heart to them, more bite than the Pittsburgh Steelers do.
Yep. And so we both agree on that one. Indianapolis Colts 8-2 at the Kansas City Chiefs. Prove it game for the Colts coming off a bye, and the last stand for the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been dragging me down all year, but I can't do it. I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs win this one. Patrick Mahomes finds one more magic rabbit out of his hat, and Danny Dimes continues to. He finally starts playing like his old self from the Giants, fumbling the football, interceptions. I'll go with Kansas City in this one.
Oh, Lloyd, I hate to pop your balloon. Colts take him down coming off a bye week. I think Kansas City's starting to deflate, man. But it's going to be a good game, though. I will say that.
Oh man, and it's funny because Nate's always like, "Oh, you're Chiefs." Everybody hates the Chiefs. I'm like the only one that's rooting for him at this point. Early on, Andy Reid's a lovable grandpa, and everybody was like, "Oh, rooting for him." Now it's fatigue. It's almost like with the old Bulls teams, and people are like, "Good, I want them to lose." So we'll see if they have a last stand in them. Uh, so Kevin and I disagree on that one. The Eagles 7 in they're 8-2 at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are playing right now. Not sure how that goes, but the Cowboys have kind of had the Eagles' number here and there in their matchups recently. I think they split a lot. I'm going with the Eagles in this one. Is there any way Dallas could beat the Eagles?
Oh, there's definitely a way. I mean, the Eagles' offense hasn't been doing anything the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, in Dallas, as we know, like I said, I don't know what's going on with tonight's game either, but I know Dallas can hang points. So, if it got into a shootout situation, I think that would favor Dallas. The one thing I will say, Jalen Carter, show some restraint. Show some restraint.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And Jamar Chase suspended today for spitting. Enough spitting, guys. So the last game we'll look at before we close out the night here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football. Tampa Bay Bucks at the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams are playing at such a high level. Matthew Stafford looking like an MVP. I'm going to go with the Rams in this one.
I tell you what, the Buccaneers, man, they've had a murderer's row of games. We're going to give you the Patriots. Then we're going to give you the Bills. You know what? Hey, go play the Rams now. And so, I mean, will it make them more battle tested when the playoffs come around? Possibly, but they need to pull a W out of one of these three games also. So, I mean, they need to start winning some games as well. So, Rams coming off a big win against Seattle. I see. Gosh, man, that's just tough. 3 games in a row for the Bucks. I'll go with the Bucks. How about that?
All
Try to do
right.
the letdown factor with the Rams.
All right, well, we're recording it, so we'll hold Kevin to it. Another great week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 Game Coast Sports Digital Network. Hopefully, A.J. Brown gets his targets and he can stop tweeting, and he'll be happy when the Eagles take on the Dallas Cowboys at 4:25 next week. But we will preview and review all the games next week, and we will see you then here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 Game Coast Sports Digital Network.